Hello and welcome to another video. And it's just too hot to record a video properly. I literally have an ice pack right here with me so I can cool myself down. Anyways, so don't complain about me not looking into the camera the whole time. I've worked really hard on the script and it's really hard to concentrate properly. So guess what? Can't wait till the winters. I do have something important to say before we start the actual video. If you don't want to hear it, skip it to this timeline given on the screen. The main reason I've not been posting a lot of videos is because since about a year or more, I have lost track of the smartphone market. Smartphone market has outsmarted me. Until 2021, I would say if someone came up to me and asked me to suggest them a phone, for which I would just ask them one question. What's their budget? The moment they tell me the amount, I present them with one or two options to choose from. The people that have taken suggestions from me were mostly friends and family, so I had a basic idea of their intensity of usage and accordingly suggest them a device in or around their budget. But since early 2022, I have lost track of all smartphones. Yes, I can still suggest a phone if you ask me, but instead of giving an instant answer, it takes me about 30 to 40 minutes, but no results guaranteed. Sometimes it even hurts when I wouldn't be able to give even a moderately satisfying suggestion in terms of tech, be it phones or laptops. The market started moving too fast at one point that I got confused to my very core of smartphone knowledge. The most heartbreaking moment was when I downloaded two pictures of phones, one Realme and one OnePlus, and I could not tell which one was which. This is coming from a person who used to be able to look at the back of a phone meters away and even with a case on and had all the important specifications of the device at the tip of his tongue. I'm not flexing, it's true. That was around the time I started to lose hope in my favorite smartphone company, OnePlus. Yes, until a point, my favorite company wasn't Apple or Samsung. Neither was I stupid enough to be a huge fan of Oppo, Vivo, or Realme. No offense. It's hard to select one particular phone these days because of how similar they are to their competitors. A lot of these smartphones can be differentiated from the competitors, which I will be talking about later on, but not enough for me to be convinced that it is a good enough option. That's the reason I feel like, despite the price, iPhones are the safest option right now. Because you see, whew, if I had to buy a new phone right now, what stops me from buying an iPhone other than its price? But let's say I have a budget of 1 lakh rupees to spend on my next phone. What would make me want to buy a Samsung phone instead of an iPhone? Right now, the most tempting phone in the entire smartphone market are the iPhones. And why do I say so? Because I'm the kind of smartphone user who wants a whole experience when I buy and use the phone. Its experience should feel complete. Right now, if you look at any Android smartphone in the budget or the mid range categories, each smartphone is dependent on that one or at times two extravagant features which end up being the entire selling point of that phone. It's the main reason even I can't stay consistent with one smartphone company. Each and every phone I've owned till date is from a different brand. God, it's so hot. And the jump I've made in terms of quality and experience is really significant. But it's different in case of Apple. Each subsequent model has certain minute changes which are hard to differentiate from far. For someone who doesn't mind the subtle upgrades which each consecutive model, even the previous generation of iPhones, would seem like a great deal considering the difference in price. I'll explain. For example, the iPhone 13 and the 14. Forget about the higher or lower models like the Pro, Pro Max, Plus, and the Mini. I'm talking about the base variant. The iPhone 13 already provides with everything an average user can ask for. So even after the next gen, that is the 14, the next gen series of course, has launched, a bunch of people are still buying the iPhone 13. And to be honest, it makes much more sense to do so. You'll get quite some discounts. Plus the upgrade isn't so significant in terms of the 13 and 14 that it will make the 13 look like garbage. So all I'm saying is, if anyone has recently bought the iPhone 13, it was a smart decision. Now, enough comparison between two iPhones. Let's just look at the real competition. Android versus Android. Well, wait. You thought it was Apple versus Android, huh? Hell no. On paper, it still might seem so, even from the video's title. But let's be honest. Right now, I don't think there is any other company that can compete with iPhones. There's a reason behind it. First off, Apple has managed to create an identity for themselves in a way that, in a lot of countries, the Apple logo on your phone is linked with your status. This is the reason countries like India, Indonesia, Vietnam are one of the biggest markets for Apple. This is because how they have created the sense of scarcity. You can buy an Android phone for less than 10,000 rupees. Well, you can buy a Xiaomi for less than 15,000. You can buy a Samsung for less than 10,000, of course. The prices of Samsung phones can range from under 10,000 to over a lakh. This creates a sense of abundance. And you know that when a thing is available too easily, it is valued less. Yeah. Here's another example of why Samsung's flagships can't be as competitive as compared to the iPhones at the same price. During the launch of the S22 series, anybody who pre-ordered it would get a free pair of Galaxy Buds. This is a good strategy in terms of getting high numbers in terms of sales, but in the long term would affect them negatively. In the sense that because of its abundance, their value in the eyes of users or potential customers would decrease. Here's where Apple played well. They created the sense of scarcity as the only reason a company would give so many discounts and free goods is because they have too many of it. Last year, Apple, along with Unidays, had come up with this offer to give free AirPods second gen, along with selected Apple products. I did make a whole almost useless video about it, almost pointless, yeah. Though it was a limited time offer, it created the same effect on the minds of customers that Samsung had done with the pre-orders of the S22. At this point, these AirPods are just regular use earphones for me. I carry it in my backpack and go to college. I use it while traveling in the bus. It's just normal. But if I would have paid 14,000 rupees to buy it, that's literally half the price of the smartphone I'm using right now. OnePlus Nord. If I had to pay 14,000 rupees to buy it, would I treat it the same way I treat my 1800 rupee boat earphones? Absolutely not. That's why Apple barely gives any offers or heavy discounts from their side. Oh wait, those deals during Great Indian Festival or Big Billion Days don't have much to do with Apple. It's Amazon and Flipkart who give those discounts. You see the real stuff on the Apple website. Unless you're looking for huge seasonal offers, I feel like the Apple website is the best place to buy the products. Anyways, the sense of scarcity has been created in terms of offers and prices. I mentioned earlier that you could get a Samsung phone for under 10,000 rupees, but guess how much you'll have to pay? Notifications, huh? But guess how much you'll have to pay to get the base level of experiencing iPhones right now? The iPhone SE. It starts from 49,900. That's literally 50,000 rupees. That tiny little phone costs as much as I paid for my iPad Air 5. Barely 1,000 of difference here. Anyways, this is the reason all Android companies have to compete primarily against each other. Now, here's where Apple had the upper hand in the market again. You see, a while ago, if you ask a dedicated Android user, let's say Mr. Who's the Boss, he would give you a ton of reasons to why back then Android phones are way better option than iPhones. Now see, what Apple does is instead of hurrying to launch a new feature in the device, they wait and prepare it until they can provide the feature in the Apple way. A very refined and smooth way, unlike Android phones where they have to come up with something new that makes their phone stand out in the market. So, by now, Apple has caught up with everything that's necessary. Good camera, good screen, good processor, good battery, good operating system. They could work on the battery a bit more, but guess what? It works. See, here's why Android phones are struggling to be more creative and actually unique these days is because they've exhausted all the ideas that were once formulated to make phones better over time. Earlier, all mainstream smartphones came with small screens, but then pretty soon, Android companies came up with plus-sized screens on the smartphones, while Apple waited for a while. Android got wireless charging all the way since 2013, but iPhones waited. Apple introduced all these features, but at a pace where they haven't exhausted all the ideas and are still good to go. They can still experiment, but they won't. Coming back to the quirky features I mentioned about earlier, there's another reason Apple got an advantage. So you see, when it comes to Android, they try out various new features that even they're not sure if they'll continue to provide in their upcoming smartphones. I'll give you a few examples. First, we have the pop-up camera. Bunch of phones launched this feature and one fine day they just vanished. It's mainly because even though they look pretty cool, they have several fundamental issues with using there are several fundamental issues with using this mechanism. Using a motor inside a phone continuously will probably damage it one day, and then guess what? You're left with no selfie camera. It's not that difficult to damage a pop-up camera. Another new feature that I've recently seen is color changing back panels. It doesn't make sense. What am I supposed to do with that? And how does changing the color of the phone justify me buying that phone? I'm not 5 years old. I don't need a phone that changes its back color. I need a phone that is good enough that I won't have to spend time designing its back panel only to justify me buying that device. A phone could look extremely bland and minimalistic from the back and give me an amazing experience. I would absolutely choose that phone, day or night, whatever. Yeah. Because of this reason, Android users don't get the sense of stability when they know they'll have to switch devices in some time. It's always like going on a hunt. I know that if I have a OnePlus Nord right now, there is absolutely zero chance I would consider buying one of its successors. Considering that instead of being a single lineup of smartphones, the Nord series has turned into an ugly mess of confusion. Half their phones closely resemble Realme phones. Two different companies whose phones are supposed to be different but are too lazy to come up with unique designs. Instead, they just end up making the most ridiculous designs in the name of successors. Coming back to Apple, what Apple does is gives its users a sense of stability, which makes a user feel like buying an iPhone the next time they want to switch devices. I'll give an example. Let's say I have an iPhone 12 right now. I feel like the phone is good, got decent battery life, good screen, good specifications. Overall, a nice experience. A few years later, let's say 3 years after using it, I want to upgrade to a new phone. Which phone would I prefer? An iPhone or a Samsung? I like pretty much everything about the iPhone I own right now, and buying an iPhone 15 would enhance each of these features along with a few extra benefits like getting a USB-C port for charging, which would make it hella convenient for me to use that phone. Basically, what I'm saying is, even 3 years later, what Apple provides me now, they will give me a sort of feeling that the iPhone 15 is definitely a successor. But the Samsung phone launched adjacent to the iPhone 12 will probably be nothing like the Samsung phone launched alongside the iPhone 15. Brand loyalty is exactly what makes Apple the king of the market right now. And why exactly do they have a loyal fan base? I gave a few major reasons, but there's one more left. Their ecosystem. Seamless connectivity between your Apple devices and easy communication and sharing with other people's Apple devices. You got iMessages, FaceTime, AirDrop. I see two iPhone users and how they share photos with each other. Two of my friends would say, AirDrop me the pictures, where me and my other Android user friends would still be dependent on WhatsApp. AirDrop barely affects the quality. To be honest, it doesn't affect the quality of photos or video shared on it. And it's fast. It's smooth, it's convenient. Next, we got FaceTime. Okay, this one's good. Apple's very own video calling platform. Now, FaceTime works really smooth compared to other apps. WhatsApp video calls are fine, but FaceTime just feels smoother. Plus, you can share your screen with it, just like Google Meet or Zoom. So recently what Apple did is allow Android users to join FaceTime calls. But they didn't introduce an app for the Android phones. They allowed Apple users to create a link that they have to send out to the Android users in some way, say WhatsApp or Telegram. The Android users then open that link to join that FaceTime call. The problem here is, first off, you have to wait for the iPhone user to send the link, which could be slightly annoying for the iPhone user too. On the Android user side, they have to wait for the link, and once they receive it, they have to attend the call in the browser in a sort of windowed format instead of a full screen experience. I tried it personally with two friends, both of them iPhone users, and me being an Android user, I joined their FaceTime call with the link. Now, I asked Shub to share his screen in the call. First of all, the FaceTime on Android phone just feels weird. It feels like a cheap knockoff of something that is potentially good. So what happens is, in an iPhone, the user shares their screen on FaceTime. The Android users can't see the screen. Let's say I shared a YouTube video through my iPhone. The Android user will not be able to see that screen. It's a huge mess, you know. While you see other people on the call comfortably watching the shared screen, you just sit there looking at the faces. I tried joining the same link through my iPad, and guess what? It worked. Now I can FaceTime my friends from my iPad without a link, even though it has no SIM card in it. My iPad is the Wi Fi only version. Using FaceTime on Android made me realize how much better the experience is for the platform when you use an Apple device. So, what I'm trying to say is, Apple allowing Android users to experience FaceTime was not charity or just letting Android users connect more with Apple users. It's a carefully planned strategy that, let's say, 100 Android users use this FaceTime link. Out of them, at least 10 or 20 people would get the urge to buy an iPhone. Let's say 20 people got the urge, out of which 10 people went ahead and got an iPhone. Well, they connect with other Android users around them, and the cycle continues. Once a person close to you switches from an Android to an iPhone, slowly a transition will occur. I've witnessed it and even experienced this effect. But if I do buy an iPhone, it won't be because of the same reason majority of Asian users buy iPhones. It will be because the phone itself is good enough and better than my previous phone in several aspects. So, what was the point of this video? All I'm saying is, everyone. Okay, am I saying everyone should become an iPhone user? Nope. Is the Android market dead? No. Because the majority of people are still unaware of the depth to which the smartphone market goes. So, the Android market is still pretty much alive. Am I saying that there's absolutely no hope left in the Android market? I don't know, but as of now, if I had to buy an Android phone, there is not one phone that will draw my attention towards it the way the OnePlus Nord did 2.5 years ago. Almost 3 years ago, I guess. This is just one of the many videos I'll be making about the smartphone market, and I don't know how long it will take for the next video to come up. Just hope the temperature goes down in the city so yeah, I can work better. I've been working on a few more scripts as of now. And you know what? I don't need the prompter anymore. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Could have been better, but guess what? It's too hot. Happy summers, man. Enjoy your vacation.